Hi, good afternoon. And I'm Michael Conway of Renaissance, and I'd particularly like to welcome you all today, this afternoon, to our session where we're going to talk about turning your security operations into a proactive program rather than a reactive one. And what we're seeing from a security and cyber point of view at the moment is this whole area is a massive challenge for a lot of organizations. They have critical challenges in terms of and I'm not going to just read the slide, but in terms of observability, et cetera, but the challenge is how you actually manage that and how you can be proactive in relation to that. We want to make this session as effective for all the attendees as possible. All the attendees are muted for the session, but you have the opportunity to ask questions at the end during the Q&A. So please raise those questions through chat to me or into the general chat. You can send them directly to me or into the general chat, and we'll look to answer those questions. And the whole objective of this is that you actually get the benefit for yourself, from yourself, in terms of what you want to get out of it. So you raise the questions that come to your mind, the questions are appropriate to yourself. The session is being recorded. Unfortunately, there's some people who are unable to attend, as you'd expect in all circumstances. There's always something else going on these days and other challenges in day-to-day operations. So it is being recorded and it'll be made available for those who have been unable to attend afterwards. And as I say, please just direct the questions to myself in chat or send them, put them into the general Q&A. Really, as you can see on the agenda, it's a very straightforward agenda. We want to keep it through the time so that we're very grateful for your time to come along on the session, but we don't want to take too much of your time. What we want to do, as we say, is make it interactive, but if there's any questions areas or anything like that, or any areas for conversation later, we can take them offline as well. So you have all of our details for Renaissance, and indeed you'll get the details for the Energy Logserver team as well. So I would like to introduce you to Simon, who is going to take us through what Energy Logserver can do and how it can operate and how it can actually their solutions and their key features. So I'll pass you on to Simon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go through the slides, and like Michael mentioned, every questions are welcome. So please use that opportunity. I will hide my face in the camera right now. We'll see again at the end during the Q&A. So let's get started. Energy Logserver is the solution from the log management, CM, and network analysis sector where you focus on gathering your data. So usually we are familiar with the situation where in our companies, especially in the cybersecurity area, there are a lot of solutions that are helpful for maintaining high level of security, starting from antivirus, going through obviously some kind of firewalls, DLPs, IDSs, and so on. So multiple solutions. Sooner or later, as your company will grow or will evolve in the resisting new cyber attacks, you will face a situation where you need to correlate the data, where you need to look at everything from the wider perspective, and to see the data combined and to see the whole environment working together, not from multiple consoles, but from a single point of view where you have everything presented to you and ready to be analyzed. So those, right, as you can see on the slide here, those are the elements that Energy Logserver focuses on. So we have a log management where we focus on event centralization, document collections, and data analysis. And when we have the data in the system, we can then correlate them and alert based on them, detecting malfunction, diagnosing, troubleshooting, and reporting. So this is like a starting step where you have a situation where you have your own central point of view and you can start analyzing data and correlating them. From that, we can move a little step further, which is the CM. From there, we can start analyzing in the context of strictly security. We can start alerting based on behavior analytics, based on the security scenarios, based on the many elements that the system itself detects, or whatever is delivered from the supporting system or from the sources. So we have, for example, incident management, vulnerability detections, file integrity monitoring. I will talk about all those elements later on, where I imagine that important aspect is that, especially now, the compliance and auditing is very important. So just to mention that this is covered as well in the system. And a little bit on the side, there is a network probe, which is very powerful solution used for detecting suspicious behavior. It works as a analysis tool where we are sending copy of a network traffic to the probe. The probe automatically analyzes the traffic, categorizes it, and detects any abnormal behavior as well as suspicious behavior. So with that, we can recognize zero-day attacks, identify the source of the problem, and obviously visualize how our network area divided by the categories, like, for example, SSH traffic, HTML, connections, and so on. There is also the top layer, which is the Energy SOAR used for automation and management incidents, but that is a different solution. We will not talk about it today, but it is really important to be aware that there is another layer really used for the SOC operators as a starting point for analysis, and which can help you automate the processes of your managing the incidents greatly. So how does we get the data? Basically, from the IT sector, we can get any data, any text data, either through Windows events or from applications. So those are the options where you might want to use an agent to gather that data. But obviously, there is a bunch of agentless approaches. So, for example, API to API connection, syslog, direct input through TCP/UDP protocol, SNMP traps, and so on. So there are a bunch of options that you can actually use to gather, to send the data to the system. And in fact, in some cases, Energy Logserver can be used to gather the data itself. So it's not always a passive system. It can always reach out if that is the possibility to get the data, then that is also available. There is also OT sector where we can gather, but that I think if you're interested in the OT sector, then please feel free to ask about it, or we can schedule some kind of individual session regarding that. But mostly the OT isn't yet, at least, often combined with IT. So we'll focus today on the IT sector rather than OT, but OT is as well on the table. So in general, the Energy Logserver tries to combine all the strengths of your infrastructure in the single point and enhancing that with their own functionality. So, for example, log management and data correlation and analysis data, or obviously the functionalities that Energy Logserver brings to the table, but also there are a lot of different possibilities, like, for example, metric server, where you can gather data from the hardware performance monitoring, and then visualize and alerts based on anomaly on that level. There is also connection to the cloud environments like AWS or Azure, and in fact we can even detect the billings and the predicted costs for the cloud environment. So that is really impressive from the wider perspective of how much can we accomplish when we have the data inside a single system. So we have key elements for the security analysis are obviously the idea is to increase the security by correlation between data types. So you have to remember that we have the data from security solutions that are already present in our infrastructure, obviously, but there are also a second layer which is done by the Energy Logserver that is done by, for example, correlating the data or matching those correlations against the rules. So we can detect cases like, for example, SQL injections attempts or brute force or the denial of service attacks, or even more sophisticated like phishing or connections from the unknown sources. The idea is to decrease the time needed for the analysis and automatically to detect automatically some kind of weak points or incidents that are might be interesting for security officer or basically even for operator at the first line. So the idea also is to make the bigger value from your security systems information, so to make everything work together. So basically what CM does is that it makes your infrastructure work like a organism. So if you have, for example, I don't know, a pain in the left hand, then for sure your right hand doesn't stay, you know, untouched by this, but also the whole organism is working together to defeat the disease or to lower the pain. Same way your infrastructure should be working, where you have a system that correlates the data, takes information from all the sensitive points in your infrastructure, and tries to show and present those information, those incidents to the operator. We have a lot of predefined rules and alerting rules and correlation rules, more than 700 detection rules. So that is something that Energy Logserver brings to the table. So you have to remember, and I will mention this later on as well, that the system isn't an empty system that you get. You get a system that is fully equipped with a lot of different rules, a lot of different objects that helps you to start away using the system. So it's not like you get the bare bone, you start to connect and working your way up from the scratch. No, you are already equipped with a lot of rules that are working on the sources, because there is obviously a lot of big players on the market. So from company to company, we are seeing them. Obviously, like for example, FortiGate or Palo Alto or Windows or whatever, those are the solutions and the softwares that you see all over the place. So we can, in fact, create those universal rules that works universally across those solutions, and you are fully equipped with them within the Energy Logserver. And then you can use, for example, playbooks or active responses based on that data that we gather. We obviously have a direct connection with the MISP or MISP integration for the share platform of malware information. Obviously, the MITRE attack, and getting those information about the IOC indicator of compromises, which are very, very, very important to recognize. Those are already inside the Energy Logserver, like I said, so it's no, obviously no additional cost regarding that. Those are the elements that you already have in the system, and you can use freely across your infrastructure, across your data sources. And for example, easily we can correlate the data from your firewall or from your network traffic to our internal threat intelligence database to recognize if something is suspicious or not. And obviously compliance. So here are the examples of compliance, the 5 examples, but there are much more, like, for example, SOX compliance or 2700 ISO, if I'm not mistaken, the name. Yeah, so those are the list of only some of them. Well, in our region, I think very important is the GDPR, but also HIPAA regarding health institution, medical sector, PCI DSS for institutions from finance and those institutions that work with the finance flow. So very, very important, as well as the online shopping. Built-in vulnerability management also is something that you get with the Energy Logserver CM plan. And what is the best from that is that those vulnerability that we detect are also working together. If you have a vulnerability of your own, vulnerability detections system of your own in your infrastructure, like for example, to enable SC, Qualys, OpenVAS, Greenbone, Rapid7, and more. So like I said, it's everything coming together, working as a one environment. File integrity monitoring, which is used for monitoring changes in the files, catalogs, directories, and what is really important, Microsoft registries. That is something that that is really important to follow the changes across our endpoints. So let's move a little further to the case studies, because that is what we gathered for, to listen a little about real life cases rather than just the potential functionalities and what can we do. Let's talk about what we actually done. So the first case is from the private medical sector. The company started with the log management level. So basically they were looking for, exactly like I said at the beginning, the central point of view. So they wanted to gather all the information from their application, from their system, and so on. There were, at the beginning, there was no thinking about the CM, about the monitoring security, and so on. And the system, after deployment, the system worked for, I believe, 6 to 8 months. And then at the customer side, the security department take a look at the system and figure out, well, that's something that actually is very interesting. So we did an introduction to the CM capabilities, and they evolved to, they increased the functionality to the CM capabilities, increased the nodes, so the infrastructure of the system, and moved to the full CM capabilities. Now the customer is experimenting with the network probe, which will be deployed further on in the deployment process. We are just figuring out where to connect the probes and what is the worth monitoring. So this is the story of from the zero to the hero, basically. So we started with a log management, just basic functionalities, and we finished up with the monitoring of a whole infrastructure for that customer. Then we can look at the calculating capabilities and monitoring capabilities of the Energy Logserver case from one of the leaders in telecom market in Poland. The case was here that the telecom had a lot of different departments, and I'm not expert in that, but I figured out that they are splitting some kind of budgets. They have some internal agreements and SLA and so on. So one department is maintaining one application, the other is maintaining other applications, and so on. And they had to figure out how to monitor the SLA for those applications, for those services. because if on their end the SLA is not met, then obviously they need to recompensate that to other departments or to other branches of that telecom. So in that case, we figure out that the architecture needs to be a little more evolved, but not in the regards of data nodes, meaning the databases, but in regards of the input nodes, so for monitoring specifically. So in that case, we connected to a lot of different systems, a lot of different applications, monitor a lot of different services, including the systems that were way beyond the end of the life and end of the support. So it was really, really outdated technology, and we had to integrate with them and integrate that with the CI/CD process to automate whole maintaining and monitoring. Then we have a case from the banking, which is actually one of the biggest deployments on that time. The customer was looking for ArcSight replacement, so they had an ArcSight installation, but due to the lack of features and they had a hard time, customizing the features and making those features more efficient. They figured out that they need to change the solution, and there was a scan across the market to figure out what solution would be the best. And Energy Logserver was found to be ideal because it was highly cost effective, and we delivered the customized features to the customers. So if you have some really unique case that you need to address, then please feel free to reach us, because we do have that in our blog to answer the customer needs. What started as a project it was a medium one because it started at the 30 nodes. Now it's more than 90, and it's still running without any major issues. Really robust system, and I'm really proud of how it ended. And then finally, we have a finance and vindication company in Europe, and it was the case for ELK upgrade. So they had an Elasticsearch installation already with the 3 nodes, but the customer had a lot of applications and was using for the large part the APM modules for the Elasticsearch, but the licensing of the Elasticsearch and the cost was really something that made them rethink their decision regarding continuing cooperation with the Elastic. And Energy Logserver was a natural replacement for that, because we do use similar engines below, so that the switching between Elasticsearch and Energy is very, very, very fast. That's why the transition between the environments was really easy. And not only we've delivered the solutions that they wanted to, they were expecting, but we also give something from our own regarding the alerting and the predefined objects and so on. So in general, why the Energy Logserver CM is the really good alternative, because we allow you to see the big picture of your environment regarding all of the systems that you already have. We do deliver the features that are modern, that are customized and flexible to your needs. We have really straightforward licensing model, which I will talk in a moment. Just not to keep you for a longer time, and performance for the Energy Logserver is very, very satisfying. It is, like I mentioned, it is based by the Elasticsearch engine below, so the performance is very, very, very good, and very happy with how it turns out. With that, also there is a flexibility regarding the architecture, because that is something that the database allows us to do, and also our own features increase that functionality. And obviously the pricing, which is really competitive and really flexible in regarding of your needs. So let's look at the functions here for the basic licensing in case of the starting level log management, meaning that we are licensing only the databases, only so-called data nodes instances. So we do not limit the data sources, the quantity of the data, and the number of users, the performance of it. Absolutely not. You are free to customize your infrastructure however you want. We only license the number of the data nodes, the databases in your infrastructure for the Energy Log Server. And here we have some general performance for one instance of the data node. So it heavily depends on the performance, to be honest. So if you have even like a super powerful computer, super powerful server to run the node, then you can push this even further. But in general, we are about the one data node. We can expect around 5K events per second. More than 100 gigabytes of data per day can be ingested to the system, and in general up to 12 terabytes of data, more than yeah, exactly, sorry, up to 12 terabytes of data on the disk. And absolutely, if you will figure out that maybe we need to scale this, we need to increase the number of the data nodes for the performance, for the data retention, maybe for the data security, absolutely, there is no problem with that. Scaling can be done both ways, meaning the performance wise as well as the quantity of the nodes wise. So really, really flexible and really powerful in the design. And then we can look at the CM and networking. The CM plan is licensed based on the number of data nodes as well. It is an evolvement of the log management. So we basically the cost of the CM plan is based on the number of data nodes from your log management plan, and that's it. Regarding the network probe is licensed individually. So basically, it depends how many of the nodes of the probe, sorry, you need in your infrastructure, and how many of probes you need depends on your network design. So that's completely up to you. And if you have some kind of joint place where networks can combine, you can place the network probe there, and you can expect that the performance up to 100,000 flows per second and up to 10 gigabytes per second of data. So that's something that to think about. And those are some of the clients that trusted us. Some are from the Polish market, some of the small ones, like for example, the city offices. So those are the city public offices. So they are not, obviously they are not a big clients, but there are also clients like, for example, the post office, which turns out to be one of the biggest CM deployments in Poland this year, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. So absolutely, those are our experiences and clients. Feel free to contact us. And for now, we are going back to the question and answers.
Simon, thank you very much. Excellent. Very. I know it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour for everybody in terms of the SIEM, but two things. Firstly, fantastic presentation and good view. Far better than my Polish, and you win the hairstyle record compared to me. Anyway, I can't compete. But seriously, there are a few questions that have come in, and I'd just like to, I think one of the reasons that we partner with Energy Logserver is the challenge of seeing that we have seen in the marketplace. People talk about it, people look at it, etc., and people say, well, listen, this is something that maybe I need. I like your sort of description. It's about the whole organism, and it's making the infrastructure work as one, if you like. And I must say I like the analogy of the right hand and the left hand, because frequently we see technologies being deployed and they're doing one thing, and the other technologies are deployed and they're doing the next, but there's no correlation. And what I suppose, coming to the question that I was going to come to, is that we see people talking about deploying a SIEM, but the challenge for a lot of people is this is a monolith. It's huge. It's massive. It's massive in terms of the project for a lot of people, but it's also massive in terms of the price. Can you maybe sort of give some sort of comments or thoughts in relation to that?
Yeah, obviously the CM solution is never something that comes to deployed in the half a day and you have the system that is completely ready. Obviously the core components can be installed very quickly, especially with the Energy Logserver and the automated installation script, but that's the other aspect. In general, the Energy Logserver is really able to speed up the deployment process for the reasons of the predefined objects that I mentioned at the beginning, obviously, and the automation that is already in the system. So obviously, when you are deploying the system, you are not left alone, and you have full support on regard for questions or cases that you have. But obviously, the big part is that the process is fully automated with a lot of predefined parsers, alerts, correlations. You would be surprised how that really speeds the process up. So that is something that, for example, in the competition, we don't see when you install the bare bones of ELK, Elasticsearch, then you have a empty system, basically. When you look at the Splunk, for example, then you are looking also at the mostly empty system, but there are applications that you can use and import which have the predefined parsers. But if you look at them closely, most of the serious applications are paid. So you need to pay one time for the license, which are really expensive one. And the second one is for the applications, for the functionality. In the Energy Logserver, you pay only for the license. So that's really something that you don't see often in the market.
So time to value is a lot quicker with Energy Logserver, and return on investment is better, because I know we've seen that as a sort of an obstacle to people looking at deploying SIEM. They've talked about it, but they're saying, oh, the challenges are too big. But I think, and one of the reasons that we partnered, the Renaissance to partner with yourselves, is that we've seen that you've managed to deploy this throughout many countries globally, yes. with more of an Irish scale, I suppose is what I would be suggesting, rather than global scales, because West Coast of America is bigger organizations than typically in Ireland, I guess. Yeah. So more of a European focus. A couple of other questions here. The question, say, in the MSSP model, as an example, where is the data kept and where is it stored?
That actually is a good question, because that is the example where you can shine with the flexibility. The MSSP project, if you have very sensitive information that you do not wish to share somewhere in the cloud, you are free to create something that is hybrid environment. So in general, you as a customer have your own set of data nodes that are dedicated for your data. So they are always kept locally. Even if there is some kind of malfunction or whatever, those data never leave your infrastructure. But the system itself is maintained by the MSSP provider. So it's a win-win. You don't need to send the data somewhere from your infrastructure. But in general, in the classic MSSP providers, in the classic MSSP, where you send the data, either you can go with the hybrid model or with the classic model where the data is stored on the data nodes delivered by the provider.
So you have no challenges about data residency or
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is the core functionality of the engine. So this is, without this, there would be no huge functionalities like, for example, disaster recovery, high availability, data replication, resistance for example, malfunctions and network errors. So that is something that is in core of the functionality of an Edge Logserver.
Yeah, so following on that theme of the security and the confidentiality, I guess, on the of the data, there's a question here about, is the traffic encrypted then, or how is that handled?
Yeah. Absolutely, it is encrypted. Obviously, it can be open if that's not a problem. Then obviously that is possibility. But the traffic in general can be encrypted, delivered with the encryption is done either through obviously our certificates or delivered by the customers. So no worry on that level.
Okay, and in terms of implementation, and I know again it's coming back to the question that was raised earlier, which is about the ease of deployment and the ease of getting I suppose a time to value. Can Energy Logserver help in terms of the installation, or what
obviously, yes, exactly. The automated script really helps to deploy it, because normally when you would install all the components manually, like we did in the many years ago, that would be the time of around 1 day, and the configuration would be normally done on the second day. But now, since there is a fully automated installation process, basically we've created something like you are familiar with the Windows Wizard installation. We have very similar thing on the Linux installation, where you launch a dedicated process, and the process is just asking what function you want to deploy, and you answer those questions, and everything else is completely automated.
Because somebody as with the lack of knowledge that I have, do it, you can't say yes to that.
I believe everything from you is expected is to push the Y button or the N button on the keyboard. So yeah, even you could do it.
Okay, that's a compliment for anything, but yeah. So question here about archiving and scheduling order. I'm not sure. I know this is a bit more technical, but do you have a policy for archiving with scheduling order, or is that?
I know what the question is. I know what the question is referring to. The archiving is one of the modules in the Edge Logserver, and the archiving is really important in itself, because from my test, I've managed to decrease the size for the archive to 70% of the original size of the data. So this is a huge reduction, and then we can manage what archives are done in which order, and when they are executed. Absolutely, that is something that we have full control over. And I would love to show you the functionality of the archiving, because I'm really proud of how it was developed. But obviously, we don't have time for that today. But yeah, that's absolutely possible in the Energy Logserver. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, I guess really you're more than happy to demonstrate this, but everybody's needs are slightly different, so it's always important to have a conversation with an organization, understand what the requirements are. I've one last question, which actually feeds in on the back of that. Are there any options for testing this more closely? Is there a trial version?
Yes, there is, absolutely. We encourage everyone to have a go with the Energy Logserver and test it. We provide the test and or the POC solutions. Obviously, that's something that we are happy to do. I believe that the solution will defend itself, so I don't have any fears of installing the POC environment or the demo environment, or giving someone access to the demo environment that we already have, and then allow that flow and allow the partners of the customers to learn and to find out that the solution is really nothing that scary. Although CMs are, like we already established, huge solutions, but when you get the first bite, the second is only the enjoyment.
Fair enough. So the challenge is worthwhile at the end. So the value, there is a real value in it. I think that was the last question that's come in, unless there's any others. But I mean, I think one of the things that I'd say from a Renaissance point of view, and really thank you very much to you and to the audience for attending, but is the opportunity now is to is to for anybody to take this, look at this later on, have a conversation with the Renaissance team, with yourselves, and then we can organize a trial. But probably even more appropriately or importantly is to have the conversation where we actually where we get people engaged, where we look at what their requirements may well be, and then take it from there. So look, thank you very much, Simon, for that, and thank you very much to those attending, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.